Welcome to HDTV. You now rocking with your boy. Now, interesting enough. I know this is gonna be left field, but this is a story by allthat'sinteresting.com, and it's by Morgan Dunn, published August 11th this year and updated on August 13th. The true stories of murder and lynchings that inspired the horror classic Candyman. Now, if you already know about this story, that's fine, but I'm just doing this story for other people who may not have heard the story, like myself and others. I just seen the movie Candyman, but don't know really the backstory of the character. So the real Candyman stories behind the legend may not be supernatural, but they are just as chilling as anything the movie could ever depict. With these words, and basically, Be My Victim was, of course, Mr. Tony Todd, who was the actor who played Candyman in the '92 film. And that line, with these words, an icon of horror was born in 1992's Candyman. The vengeful spirit of a black artist lynched for having an illicit affair with a white woman, he begins terrorizing Helen Lyle, a graduate student researching the Candyman legend, which she sure is a myth. However, he quickly proves to be all too real when he's summoned after his name is set into a mirror he kills with his rusty hook hand. Throughout the course of the movie, Lau uncovers the truth behind the Candyman legend while encountering the more terrifying everyday realities of poverty, police indifference, and drugs that plague the lives of black Chicagoans and had been for decades. Shoot, even today. Since his debut, Candyman has become a real life urban legend. The character's chilling eeriness and tragic backstory have resonated with generations of horror fans, leaving a lasting legacy that keeps viewers asking, is Candyman real? From a history of a racial terror in America to one Chicago woman's disturbing murder, the true story of Candyman is even more tragic and frightening than the movie itself. Basically, the chilling murder of Ruthie Mae McCoy. Through the events of Candyman may seem like they could never happen in real life, one story suggests otherwise. The tragic murder of Ruthie Mae McCoy, a lonely, mentally ill resident of the ABLA homes on Chicago's South Side. On the night of April 22nd, 1987, a terrified Ruthie called 911 to request help from the police. She told the dispatcher that someone in the apartment next door was trying to come through her bathroom mirror. They threw the cabinet down, she said, confusing the dispatcher, who thought she must be crazy. What the dispatcher didn't know is that McCoy was right. Narrow passages between apartments allowed maintenance workers easy access, but they also became a popular way for burglars to break in by pushing the bathroom cabinet out of the wall. Although a neighbor reported gunshots coming from McCoy's apartment, police chose not to break down the door due to the risk of being sued by residents. Had they done so, when the building superintendent finally drilled the lock 2 days later, he discovered McCoy's body face down on the floor, shot 4 times. The movie contains several elements of this sad tale. Candyman's first confirmed victim is Ruthie Jean, a Cabrini Green resident murdered by someone who came through her bathroom window. Like Ruthie McCoy, neighbors, including the coincidentally named Anne Marie McCoy, saw Ruthie Jean as crazy. And like Ruthie McCoy, Ruthie Jean called the police only to die alone and without help. No one is quite sure how the details of McCoy's murder ended up in the movie. It's possible that director Bernard Rose learned of McCoy's murder after deciding to shoot his movie in Chicago. It's also been suggested that John Malkovich had an interest in making a movie about the story and shared the details with Rose. What's known for certain is that her death was far from unusual in Chicago's public housing. Now, poverty and crime in Chicago's Cabrini Green homes. The movie takes place and was partially filmed at the Cabrini Green House. Yeah, the Cabrini Green Housing Project on Chicago's near North Side. Cabrini Green, like the ABLA homes where Ruth McCoy lived and died, was built to house thousands of black Americans who came to Chicago for work and to escape the terror of the Jim Crow South, largely during the Great Migration. The modern apartments feature gas stoves, indoor plumbing and bathrooms, hot water and climate control to offer comfort to residents through the brutal cold of Lake Michigan winters. This early promise held out, and the homes appeared in television shows like Good Times as a model of a excuse me as a model of a decent standard of living. But racism fueled neglect from the Chicago Housing Authority, which transformed Cabrini Green into a nightmare by the 1990s in full view of Sears Tower. 15,000 people, almost all African American, lived in dilapidated buildings rife with crime resulting from poverty and the drug trade. Around the time Candyman premiered in 92, a report revealed that only 9% of Cabrini residents had access to paying jobs. The rest relied on paltry assistance grants, and many turned to crime in order to survive. Particularly telling are some of the words Ruth McCoy spoke to the police dispatcher. The elevators working, elevators, lights, and utilities were so often out of order that when they did function, it was worth mentioning. By the time the film crew arrived to shoot the disturbing interior of the Candyman's lair, they didn't have to do much to make it convincing. 30 years of neglect had already done their work for them. Similarly, America's troubling trend of violence against black men, and particularly those who formed relationships with white women, set the stage for another crucial plot point in Candyman, the tragic villain's origin story. Candyman and real stories of interracial relationships incited violence. And an example of this is former champion boxer Jack Johnson and his wife Etta Duriea. Their 1911 marriage sparked violent opposition at the time, and a second marriage to another white woman resulted in Johnson being jailed for years. So, in the film, the talented black artist Daniel Robitel fell in love with and impregnated a white woman whose portrait he was painting back in 1890. Upon discovery, her father hires a gang to beat him, saw off his hand, and replace it with a hook. They then covered him in honey and let bees sting him to death, and in death he became Candyman. Helen Lyle is implied to be the reincarnation of Candyman's white lover. The aspect of the story is especially terrifying because the risk to interracial couples, and to black men in particular, was all too real throughout the history of the United States. The timing is an important detail. By the late 19th century, white mobs took their anger out on their black neighbors, with lynchings growing common as the years passed. In 1880, for example, lynch mobs murdered 40 African Americans. By 1890, the year cited in the movie as the start of the Candyman legend, that number had more than doubled to 85, and those were only the recorded killings. In fact, widespread violence was so popular that mobs even organized lynching bees, a grotesque murderous counterpart to quilting bees or spelling bees. No one spared victims of a 1908 lynching in Kentucky. Bodies were often left in public for days. Their murderers have knowing need to fear arrest by local law enforcement. No one was spared from this brutality. Even the world famous boxer Jack Johnson, upon marrying a white woman, was hounded by a white mob in Chicago in 1911. In 1924, Cook County only known lynching victim, 33-year-old William Bell, was beaten to death because the dead man was suspected of having attempted to attack one of two white girls, but neither girl could identify Bell as the assailant. The lynching described in Candyman remains so terrifying because it was a live daily reality for generations of African Americans. whose reflection can be seen in the terror experienced by the Candyman. In fact, it wasn't until the 1967 Supreme Court case Loving versus Virginia that interracial couples gained legal recognition for their partnerships, by which time thousands of attacks and murders had been committed against African Americans all over the country. In February 2020, the House of Representatives passed a bill making lynching a federal crime. Beyond the real terrors of the black experience in the United States, Candyman also expertly draws on myths, stories, and urban legends to create a new horror icon with deep roots in familiar tales. Bloody Mary, Clive Barker, and the legends behind Candyman. Tony Todd was reportedly paid $1,000 for every sting he received from the live bees used in the film. He was stung 23 times. So, who is Candyman? The original Candyman was a character in British horror writer Clive Barker's 1985 story, The Forbidden. In this story, the titular character haunts a public housing tower in Barker's native Liverpool. Barker's Candyman draws on urban legends like Bloody Mary, who's said to appear after repeating her name several times in a mirror, or the Hook Man, infamous for stories in which he attacks teenage lovers with his hook hand. The biblical story of Samson is another possible influence. In the book of Judges, the Philistines, or Philistines, I believe, that's how you say it, Philistines. I call it Philistines, but either or, rule Israel. Samson takes a Philistine wife, crossing racial lines, and notably slays a lion in whose belly bees produce honey. This influence can be seen in Candyman's swarms of spectral swarms of bees and the references to sweetness throughout the film. What sets Candyman apart from other horror icons is that, unlike Jason Voorhees or Leatherface, he only ever kills one person on screen. He has much more in common with tragic avenging anti-heroes than he does with the monstrous image associated with him. So, was there an actual real life Candyman? Is there a legend in Chicago about the ghost of a vengeful artist wrongfully killed? Well, no. The truth is that there is no single origin to the story of Candyman, except perhaps in the mind of Tony Todd. Todd worked out Candyman's painful human backstory in rehearsals with Virginia Madsen. In truth, the character draws on general historical violence, myths, and stories like those of McCoy and countless others to reveal the pain experienced by millions and the fears they inspire. Todd made creative use of his knowledge of history and racial injustice to give life to Barker's character. His improvisations impressed Rose so much that the original version he had written was scrapped and the fateful, furious ghost we now know was born. Whether or not Candyman drew on Ruthie Mae McCoy's murder directly for inspiration, or whether it was simply a coincidental case of local research adding realism to the movie, is impossible to say. What is known is that her tragic death was one of many like it, caused by neglect and ignorance as much as aggression or criminality. Perhaps the scariest thing about Candyman isn't his potential for bloodiness, but his ability to force audience to think about the people like McCoy who were being demonized in the Cabrini Green homes and the very real terror black Americans have faced throughout history. And basically, if you read this, read about the Tulsa massacre in which black Oklahomans fought back against racist mobs, then learn about the harrowing lynching of a 14-year-old Emmett Till whose death inspired the movement to fight for the civil rights of African Americans. So, what you guys think about that story? Do you think that they basically went down, they basically picked the story up from the locals and basically put it in the movie, or do you think it was coincidental? Me, I think they heard the story and put it in the movie to make it more real and make it very disturbing and gritty and very horrific, So when they're horrific, it could scare the viewers. Cause I was scared as hell of Candyman. I ain't play. I put a mask on before I went by the mirror, man. I kept the lights on. I kept the lights on the bathroom. My mom and dad used to cuss me out. Boy, they'd be like, Harry, man, you can stop that. Turn that light off. Chucky scared the hell out of me too. So, but I think this is a very historic thing. That's why I love Candyman, because Candyman has a lot of history that deals with Black Americans, and we can relate to Candyman. To me, you can't really relate to Jason, or Michael Myers and all of them. Maybe the pink folk can, but we can't really. We don't have nothing in common with them. But this story was very strong and touching because it showed what blacks were going through, that blacks were getting lynched. And they don't show this stuff in movies like that because they're afraid that we'll uprise and go against them. But to me, Candyman is a movie that it was horror. It was a horror movie, but it also inspired a lot of brethren like myself and brothers like myself to say, you know what? We have the power to make change. We have a power that is very, very scarce, that's not being used today. And that's the knowledge, the ability to pick up on things and learn things. We're great at that. Tony Todd, I think that's his name, Tony Todd. Let me make sure. Yeah, Tony Todd is a very great actor. He was in a lot of movies. Let's see. I'm gonna pull Mr. Tony Todd up just because I forgot what movies he played in, man. But he's a great actor, very good actor, and he doesn't get the love that he don't get no deserve. And he was born December 4th. He's a Sag, and he's played in not only Candyman, he's played in the Final Destinations. You know, he was on the TV show The Flash, Chuck, Transformers Prime. He did the voices for that. Um, let's see his movies. He's very underrated. I've seen him in a lot of movies. I'm just trying to remember which ones were they. He did play in The Crow. I remember that. He played in The Night of Living Dead. Um, Final Destinations. He played in all of them basically. He played in The Rock. I remember that. Hellfest, Transformers 2. I believe he was one of the voice characters. Let me see. Let me see. Yeah, he was the voice of the Fallen, the evil guy. So he has a lot of range. Played in The Crow, he played in Rock, Transform Revenge of the Fallen, The Man from Earth. He played in Shadow, Candy Corn, Bulletproof 2, The Final Wish, Lean on Me. He was in there. Remember, he was the guy. He was the security guy. Never Too Big. So he's played in a lot of movies that aren't really known, but he's also played in some big time movies. So Tony Todd, man, a shout out to him, man. I just, wanted to give a little history. I'm sorry I went too long. I wasn't trying to, but wanted to get a video out. I was supposed to have a video out today, but something wrong with my phone. I recorded this morning. But shout out to everybody supporting the page. Thank y'all, Joe Cool, D Dubs, um Joe Cool. Man, hold on. I got all y'all here. I'm a shout out because you guys have come to my page and you guys have supported and you guys are liking the content. I hope to get better. So shout out to you know, vaping fast breaks. Hold on. I am tripping, man, because I'm tired. That's why. Um, true. So shout out to shout out to D Dubs, Joe Cool, Mr. Andrew Gray. I said earlier, vaping fast break. Appreciate that. Also, my boy. I said Joe Cool already, man. Joe Cool's a good brother. Mr. Terrell Hubbard. Organically powered. Powered life. Ghost Baker, what up? I got your number, Ghost. I'm gonna hit you up soon. Probably this weekend. Um, Shout out to Buckeye Vinny. Vinny, he's a huge Buckeye fan. I looked at his channel. Go subscribe to Buckeye Vinny. He talks about Ohio State if you love college ball. Good dude, man. He came through and supported. He subscribed. He loved it and everything. Shout out to Know the Ledge. Know the Ledge came through, man. I met him and everybody mainly off of Carcino page, man. You know, those guys are some good brothers, man. They all of them who I called out, man. They're the reason why I do this, cause they respect my knowledge. They respect what I'm trying to bring to the table. And maybe one of these days when I get big enough, man, I could invite all y'all out, man. We can get something to eat and chill. Shout out to Uncle Frank too, man. Uncle Frank is a blessing. That young man, he knows everything, man. I swear he's one of the brightest men I've ever talked to. And shout out to my brother Kraken, aka Kane Koga. We got some music coming soon. You know, we're gonna have you guys listen to it. So, you know, like I said, we're gonna and shout out to Snow Ass. Snow Ass is going at it with me. Oh yeah, shout out to the haters too. Cause I started off with only 15 views, but now my channel getting more than that. So thank you, hater. You know who you are, who came by and said you only got 15 views laughing. Guess what? We coming up, man. We coming. I love the hate, baby. I love the hate. So, you know. And we're gonna keep going, man. Shout out to my big brother Pico as well. So, you know, like I said, I got some more videos. I'm watching the games. I will give y'all an assessment this weekend of the first week. And we'll go from there. Thank you for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And please share this video. And when you hit the notification bell, please select all to get upcoming content. And thank you for listening. We out. Live, boy.